Hello friends, in this video we will be learning how to identify whether the system is causal, whether the system is stable, unstable, or whether the system is in fact static or dynamic based on the given impulse response of the system. Let us begin. So first of all we will see how to identify whether the system is causal or non-causal based on the given impulse response to us. So let h of n is an impulse response of the system. Then for causal system, h of n must be equal to 0 for n less than 0. Let me tell you, if this condition is satisfied, only and only then the given system is said to be causal. And if this condition is not satisfied, then it is called as a non-causal system. So when h of n equal to 0 for n less than 0, the resulting system is called as a causal system. And if this condition is not satisfied, if h of n is not equal to 0 for n less than 0, then the resulting system is called as non-causal system. So I would just write else system is non-causal. So when we actually studied classification of system, where we have understood the dependency of output on input, and depending upon that we used to identify whether the system is causal or non-causal. So let me remind you, if the system output depends on the current input or at the most past input, then only a system is said to be causal. In case if the current output depends on future inputs of the system, then it's said to be a non-causal system. And we know that non-causal systems are not practically realizable. In fact, all practical systems are said to be a causal system, because we cannot have a system where output depends on future input. Am I right? So when a relation between output and input is given to you, you were in a position to identify whether the system is causal or non-causal. But this time a scenario is quite a different. This time relation between output and input is not given to you. What is given to you is an impulse response of the system, and then you have to identify whether the system is causal or non-causal. And for that I have written one criteria, that h of n must be equal to 0 for n less than 0, the system is causal, and if this condition is not satisfied, it is said to be non-causal. But let us understand and let me prove it why it is so. Only if I prove it, then only you will get convinced to this theory. So let us prove. What if h of n equal to 0 for n less than 0, how it becomes causal, otherwise it is non-causal. So first of all, we know what is the relation between x of n, y of n and h of n. That is, y of n is output, x of n is input, and h of n is an impulse response. So we know that mathematically y of n is summation k equal to minus infinity to infinity x of k h of n minus k. Am I right? So this is the relation we know between y of n, x of n and h of n. So let us assume at n equal to 0. At n equal to 0, the above relation will become y of 0 equal to summation k equal to minus infinity to infinity x of k h of minus k. Am I right? So now if I expand this summation, this y of 0 will become equal to, okay, so we are going to vary k from minus infinity to infinity. Okay, again it is not possible, so we will expand it for some certain values of k. Let us assume k equal to 0. So if k equal to 0, x of k will become x of 0, and h of minus k will also become h of 0 plus. Now I'll go on expanding the positive values of k. So right now I have substituted k equal to 0. Now let me substitute k equal to 1. So when you substitute k equal to 1, x of k will become x of 1, and h of minus k will become h of minus 1 plus, let us assume k equal to 2 now. So it is x of 2 dot h of minus 2, and this will keep on increasing positively. But then k should start from minus infinity and it should go towards plus infinity. Okay, so as I said, I'll substitute certain values of k. So certain values of k as negative certain values of k as positive, and of course k equal to 0 also I have already substituted. So only what is remaining is negative values of k. So let us substitute k equal to -1. So when you substitute k equal to -1, it becomes x of -1 h of -1 plus x of -2 h of -2 and so on. Am I right? So this whole is equal to what? Y of 0. Please don't forget your aim. You have to identify causality of the system. And I'm sure you remember when output is expressed in terms of input, how to identify the causality. So this is what I have done over here. I have tried to express your output y of n in terms of x of n here. Am I right? So based on that, let's say if you want to identify causality of the system, we know that according to causal system, present output must depend on present input or at the most past inputs, but output shouldn't depend on future inputs. That is strictly not allowed for causal system. So here I can say that y of 0 can depend on x of 0, because y of 0 means it is y of n at n equal to 0, and x of n at n equal to 0 means it is x of 0. So x of 0 can be treated as what? A present input. So this is allowed. X of -1 is also allowed, because y of 0 if depends on x of -1, it means the current output depends on a past input. So x of -1 is allowed, x of -2 is allowed. But what is not allowed? That y of 0 shouldn't be a function of x of 1, because if y of 0, that is a present state, is taken at n equal to 0, y of 0 shouldn't depend on x of 1, because x of 1 has become what? Future input. In fact, x of 2 is also a future input. It means it shouldn't be function of x of 1, x of 2 or x of 3 and so on. Am I right? What does that mean? It means that this whole part should be equal to 0, and it is possible only when h of -1 equal to 0, h of -2 equal to 0. Further, h of -3 should be equal to 0, but at the same time h of 0 is non-zero, h of -1 can be non-zero, h of -2 can be non-zero, and so on. Am I right? In fact, I should correct this to h of +2, h of +1. Am I right? Because when it is x of k, it is h of -k. So x of -2 will accompanied with h of 2, x of -1 will get accompanied with h of 1, x of 1 accompanied with h of -1, and so on. So what do we see over here? That h of n is always equal to 0 when there are negative values, okay? When there are negative values, it is always equal to 0, and whenever there are positive values, that there are chances that it should become non-zero. So here we conclude that h of n must be equal to 0 whenever n is less than 0, and that's the reason why h of -1, h of -2, h of -3 should be equal to 0. Am I right? So all negative values of n for h of n resulting into 0, only then the system is said to be a causal system. So please remember that a system is said to be causal if you want to identify it from the given impulse response, then impulse response must be 0 for n less than 0. Am I right? So this was the proof for causal system. Please remember, whatever we have stated, it is for discrete time system. So right now it is valid for a discrete time system. We can write the similar statement for continuous time system also. So we know that for a continuous time system, instead of h of n, we call that impulse response as h of t. So I can write a similar statement that h of t must be equal to 0 for t less than 0. Only then a system is said to be a causal system. And if the condition is not satisfied, so else it is non-causal. Further, we will see how stable system is identified from the given impulse response h of n. So I'll just write the statement first and I'll prove it. So for discrete time system, a mod of h of n, when taken a summation and n is changed from -infinity to +infinity, this must be less than infinity. So I'll tell you mathematically what does that mean is h of n should be finite value. I mean summation of h of n shouldn't be equal to infinity. So mathematically we say that h of n must be summable. That is, after summing all the samples present in h of n, right from minus infinity to plus infinity. So it means all the samples present in h of n, if we add up them, then it should result into finite value. In that case, in mathematics, we say that the given h of n is a summable one. So if h of n is summable, then the system is stable system. So let me tell you, if it results into infinity, that is summation n is changed from minus infinity to infinity, mod of h of n, if results into infinity, then system is unstable. So it is in case of discrete time system. In case of continuous time system, you know that if we perform summation in discrete time system, what we perform in continuous time system, of course it is an integration. And again, it is vice versa true. Integration in continuous time system becomes summation in discrete time system. Differentiation in continuous time system becomes difference equation in case of discrete system. So in case of a continuous time system, I can rewrite the same statement as integrating over minus infinity to infinity h of tau d tau, and mod of it should be less than infinity. So in mathematics, we say that h of t must be integrable. So here we say that h of t must be integrable, or area under the curve of h of t should be finite. Only then the system is stable. And of course, if this condition is not satisfied, then the system is unstable. But then let us prove this. So I'm going to prove the similar way that I have done it for causality. So we know that y of n, x of n and h of n are related with this common relation, that is summation k is changed from minus infinity to plus infinity x of k h of n minus k. Is that right? So we know that stability of the system based on a Bibo principle, that is bounded input, bounded output. What does that mean? If the input of the system is bounded in nature, and after applying to the system, when system processes it and produces its own output, then the produced output must also be finite. What does that mean? If finite input every time produces finite output, then we say that it is a bounded input, bounded output system, and then we say that a system is said to be a stable system. But if a bounded input results in unbounded output, then 100% system is unstable. Is that right? So it means input is bounded, produces output, bounded in nature, then the system is stable. So we know that input must be bounded first of all. So we know that for checking stability, x of k, that is input, must be what? Bounded. At every interval of time, x of k should be finite. So for simplicity, what I'll do is, let us assume that x of k is always 1, because 1 is what? 1 is unity, and if it is a unity, then it can be taken as a bounded one. So let us assume x of k is equal to 1. Then let us substitute this in equation 1. So I'll call this as equation 1, and I'll substitute this in equation 1. Therefore, y of n will become equal to summation, where k is changed from minus infinity to infinity, x of k is equal to 1. So we did not to mention x of k now. I'll just write h of n minus k. We know that whenever a system is stable, we check a Bibo principle, that is bounded input, bounded output. So we know that x of k equal to 1. So x of k is already bounded in nature. What we have to check whether y of n is bounded or not. So for stable system, y of n must be bounded. Bounded means what? It shouldn't become infinity anywhere. But then, can I say that y of n is equal to this summation? K is changed from minus infinity to infinity, h of n minus k. So if you want y of n must be bounded, then can I say that this must be also bounded? Therefore, for stability, I would say that summation k equal to minus infinity to plus infinity, h of n minus k should be less than infinity. Am I right? Let me tell you, this whole will become less than infinity, okay, only when the original term h of n should be also less than infinity, because understand, h of n minus k is derived from h of n. Okay, let me be very clear about it. This is originated from h of n. Am I right? Then we must say that n equal to minus infinity to infinity, mod of h of n should be also less than infinity. So now we are coming back to this story, that if you want a system to be stable, then mod of h of n, where n is changed from minus infinity to infinity, should result into a finite value. What does that mean? That if the h of n is given to you, and if you add all the samples inside h of n, it must be less than infinity, and only then the system is said to be a stable system. So this is how we have proved for discrete time system. Similarly, for continuous time system, we write this way: integrating over minus infinity to infinity, h of tau d tau, and mod of it should be less than infinity. So this is for a continuous time system. So for continuous time system, h of t must be integrable, and for discrete time system, h of n must be summable. Only then the respective system is said to be a stable system, whether it is discrete or continuous time. Now the last thing we will see, how to identify whether the system is static or dynamic depending upon the given impulse response, because we know that we already have studied this, how to identify a static system or dynamic system if the relation between output and input is given to you. So let me remind you, for static system, output or current output must depend on present input only. That is, present output should be function of present input only. That is, present output should not depend on future input or past input. Am I right? So let me remind you, for static system, present out must be a function of present input only. Only then the system is said to be a static system. So from impulse response point of view, we write it this way: h of n should be equal to 0. When n is not equal to 0, then the system is said to be a stable system. Okay, let me correct it. We should write a static system. Am I right? Else, system is said to be a dynamic system. So now we need to prove this. Why h of n should be equal to 0? When n is not equal to 0, then only it is a static system, else it is a dynamic system. So let me prove it. From the similar relation, I'll do that. Let us assume y of n equal to k equal to minus infinity to infinity, x of k h of n minus k. So of course it is not under any assumption. This is a true relation between y of n, x of n, and h of n with the help of a convolution summation. So let me substitute n equal to 2. Then can I say this is equal to y of 2, which is equal to summation k equal to minus infinity to infinity, x of k h of 2 minus k. Am I right? So now I'll expand this by substituting certain values of negative values of k, also k equal to 0 and certain values of k which are positive values. So now this is y of 2 relation. Let me substitute k equal to 0 first. In that case, it becomes x of 0 dot h of 2 itself plus. Now I'll go on expanding all positive values of k. In that case, it will become x of 1, that is at k equal to 1 dot h of 1 plus x of 2 h of 2 plus x of 3. In fact, this will become 0. Am I right? Because whenever you substitute k equal to 2, so it is 2 minus 2, it is 0. Then let us substitute k equal to 3. 2 minus 3, it is minus 1, and so on. Am I right? So let us substitute negative values of k now. So it becomes x of minus 1. So when k value equal to minus 1, 2 minus of minus 1 will become h of 3, and so on. Am I right? So now this is a y of 2 relation with respect to x of n. Now concentrate on the thing that we need to really prove. We need to prove whether the system is static or not. Okay. So for static system, we know that the present output must depend on present input only. So if I say y of 2 as present output, in that case x of 2 is called as a present input. Is that right? It means output and input must be seen at the same instant value. What does that mean? That y of 2 should not depend on x of 1, because x of 1 is becoming a past input. In fact, x of 0 is also a past input. X of minus 1 is also a past input. X of 3 is nothing but a future input. So what does that mean? If you want your y of 2 should be only function of x of 2, then h of 0 must be non-zero. At the same time, if you want that y of 2 must not depend on x of 1, then h of 1 should be equal to 0. Also, h of 2 should be equal to 0. H of 3 should be also equal to 0. H of minus 1 should also become equal to 0 if you want y of 2 should not depend on x of 3. What does that mean? If you want your y of 2 to be depend on only on x of 2, only h of 0 should be non-zero. So here h of 0 is not equal to 0, but every time you see that h of n is always 0 when n is not equal to 0. Is that right? So this proves that if you want a system to be a static system, h of n should be equal to 0 for n not equal to 0. So it means h of 0 only should be non-zero, else h of 1, h of 2, h of 3 should be equal to 0. H of minus 1, h of minus 2, h of minus 3 should also become equal to 0. Only then a system is said to be a static system. Otherwise, it is a dynamic system. Let us solve one problem. So I kept this problem in general, that is some h of n is given, which is 2 raised to n u of n minus 2, and the system is, but then deliberately I have removed all the options because I want to solve this problem for every aspect that we have learned. So we have to see whether it is causal, non-causal, we have to check whether it is static or dynamic, and at the end we will also see whether it is a stable system or unstable system. Let's see. So first of all, I'll check for causality. So let me remind you, for causality, h of n should be equal to 0 for n less than 0. Let us give a check. H of n is equal to 2 raised to n dot u of n minus 2. So let me remind you, when I say 2 raised to n, it is this kind of function, that is exponentially rising function, which is present from minus infinity to plus infinity. Am I right? Whereas u of n minus 2 is present only from 2 to infinity. So for 2 it is 1, for 3 it is 1, for n equal to 4 also it is 1, and it is going up to infinity. But then when n is equal to 1, n equal to 0, it is always 0. Am I right? So imagine if these two functions are multiplied. Okay, if these two functions are multiplied, we'll get a resultant signal from 2 only. and this will go up to infinity, am I right? So this is, you know, n equal to 1, n equal to 0, n equal to -1, and so on. So this is a nature of h of n now, am I right? So if you see carefully, h of n is always 0 whenever n is less than 0. So for all negative values of n, you observe that h of n is always 0. In that case, what I see that the condition is getting satisfied, and therefore a given system is a causal system. So from observation, you see that h of n is always 0 for all negative values of n. Hence, it is a causal system. Is that right? So let us check whether the system is static or dynamic. Is that right? This is what is given to us. We know that for a static system, h of n must be equal to 0 when n is not equal to 0. Am I right? So let us check randomly. Let n equal to 0. So at n equal to 0, h of 0 will become 2 to the power 0, and you have to check u of n minus 2 at n equal to 0. See, whenever you have to substitute n equal to 0, you cannot substitute blindly n equal to 0 and write u of n minus 2 as u of minus 2. No, you are not allowed to do that. Whenever you are substituting n equal to 0, then you have to check it this way: u of n minus 2 at n equal to 0. Try to understand u of n minus 2. U of n minus 2 function, it's something which is present as a step function or a unit step function present from 2 to infinity. Is that right? So if you check the status of u of n minus 2 at n equal to 0, of course it is equal to 0. It means h of 0 is equal to 0. Please understand, h of 0 is equal to 0. In static system, h of n should not be equal to 0 when n equal to 0. Please understand this. But I'll give you one more value, okay? So I'll check for n equal to 3. For n equal to 3, h of 3 will become how much? It is 2 to the power 3, and you have to check u of n minus 2 status at n equal to 3. Is that right? So as you can see, at n equal to 3, it is 1. So at n equal to 3, it is 1, and 2 to the power 3 is 8. What does that mean? H of 3 is equal to 8. And let me tell you, it is not equal to 0. I'm checking whether it is not equal to 0 because my condition says for static system that h of n should be always 0 when n is not equal to 0. So this is how it is not following this principle, and therefore the system is said to be a dynamic system. Therefore, this is a dynamic system. And finally, we have to check whether it is stable or unstable system. We know that for stability, if we do summation of all samples present in h of n, if resulting into finite value, only then the system is said to be a stable system. That is, when n is moved from minus infinity to infinity, mod of h of n should result in finite value. Is that right? So let us check. See, we know that u of n minus 2 is always equal to 1 for n greater than or equal to 2. Is that right? It means u of n minus 2 is always equal to 0 when n is less than 2. Is that right? So now I can actually make h of n as a sequence form. So here I'll write it for h of n at n equal to 0. We know that at n equal to 0, u of n minus 2 is 0. So this will result into 0. In fact, at h of 1 also it will remain 0. At n equal to 2, okay, from n equal to 2 onwards only this function is present. So at n equal to 2, 2 raised to 2 will become 4, 2 raised to 3 will become 8, then 16, and so on. Okay, so this is something which is never going to end. And if I do a summation of h of n, this is equal to, okay, now if I start summing all the samples, 0 plus 0 plus 4 plus 8 plus 16 and so on. This is in fact going up to infinity, that is never ending, and this will result into infinity. In fact, this is tending to infinity. In that case, I said that this is not followed. Okay, this requirement is not fulfilled, and therefore the given system is unstable system. So it is very much required that you should know how to identify the system's characteristic from the impulse response. You should be in a position to identify whether the system is causal, non-causal, whether the system is stable or unstable, or you should also understand how to identify whether the system is static or dynamic if only impulse response is given instead of establishing output and input relationship. Is that right? Thank you.